She had once been told that her long ears made her look regally aerodynamic. But today they merely twitched in irritation as yet another suitor finished reciting a poem so dramatic it nearly caused the palace lights to dim out of embarrassment. The hall of courtship shimmered around her, floating lanterns, gravity-softened floors, and columns that whispered commentary to one another like gossiping relatives. It was all meant to be impressive. Mostly, it was exhausting. "You see," the suitor concluded proudly, "my devotion burns brighter than the twin suns of—" "Yes, yes, very bright, I'm sure," she cut in, waving a hand. "Thank you for the heat." The columns sighed sympathetically. One even muttered, "I gave him a 4 out of 10. The suitor wilted and backed away. She exhaled. This was her 14th courtship petition of the day, and it wasn't even noon. Her attendants, hovering nearby on microgravity skates, pretended not to notice her suffering. One coughed politely. "My lady, the next." "No," she stood abruptly, silencing the room. "We are done. If I hear one more cosmic metaphor about my eyes, I may relocate permanently to a starless void." A few attendants exchanged looks. One lantern flickered dramatically. She swept out of the hall before anyone could protest, her long ears tilting backward in annoyance. Outside, the palace balcony opened into a vista of shimmering skyways and floating gardens. Her world was beautiful, undeniably so. And yet she felt like she had been living inside someone else's idea of perfection. A golden cage with better lighting. Everyone wanted her. Everyone admired her. Everyone recited poetry at her, apparently, but none of them saw her. They saw status, lineage, elegance. They saw a symbol. She wanted something else, something she didn't yet have a name for. And so, when the advisor approached her with the daily list of acceptable candidates, she scanned it once, then tossed it back. "I choose someone not on this list." The advisor blinked. "My lady, everyone is on the list." "No, not him." She tapped her wrist pad, pulling up a small hologram. A human male, ordinary-looking, hair slightly messy, expression caught mid-sneeze. The advisor stared as though she had presented a picture of a toaster in ceremonial clothing. "A human?" the advisor whispered. "My lady, this is highly irregular." "Perfect," she replied. "I'm tired of regular." The advisor sputtered. "But he is, well, statistically average." "That's the appeal." "But he lives on." "Yes, that messy little planet with gravity that refuses to mind its own business." "I like it," she smiled mischievously. "Prepare the shuttle." When she arrived on Earth 2 days later, descending through a haze of smog, clouds, and what might have been a flock of confused seagulls, she found the humans' home without difficulty. The navigation AI complained the entire time about architectural irresponsibility, but she rather enjoyed the crooked streets and mismatched rooftops. It felt real, imperfect, alive. She approached his door. It opened before she knocked, because he was standing behind it, holding a smoking toaster like a newborn he was afraid to offend. "Oh," he said, blinking at her, then at the toaster, then back at her long ears. Hi. Are you selling something?" "I am not selling anything," she said. "I am choosing you." "Choosing me for what?" He looked genuinely alarmed. The toaster chose that moment to eject a burnt slice with enough force to ping off the ceiling. She leaned slightly to the side to avoid the debris. "For companionship." He stared. "Is this a prank? Are there cameras? Did my sister put you up to this?" She stepped inside before he could protest, examining the cramped, cluttered living room with interest. Half-built gadgets covered the table. A shelf held an uneven collection of books and small, odd sculptures, one of which appeared to be made entirely of bottle caps. She liked it instantly. "You live alone," she observed. "Yes," he said slowly, "and usually without tall women from space walking into my apartment. Then today is special." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I think you might have the wrong guy. I'm not chosen material." "I decide what kind of material is suitable," she replied, examining his face with a calm confidence that made him swallow hard. "And I have decided it is you." The toaster emitted a final wheeze and died in his hands. She studied it, then him. "You require assistance, don't you?" "In several categories, yes." She laughed unexpectedly, freely, and his eyes widened at the sound. Her people admired her because they were supposed to. But this human, he didn't even know why she was here, and he was already honest with her. It was refreshing, grounding, exactly what she'd been starving for. "So," she said, "shall we begin?" He hesitated, looking at her ears, her shimmering attire, the faint starlight that clung to her like perfume. Then he nodded, cautiously but without fear. "Sure," he said. "But first, can we maybe fix the toaster? It's kind of important." Her lips curved. "I will assist you, though I must warn you, I do not understand earth appliances. They all look like they want to bite." And for the first time in a very long time, she felt hopeful. He had once believed that being chosen by an alien woman would instantly upgrade his life, grant him cosmic wisdom, or maybe at least a functional toaster. Instead, the following morning he woke to find her sitting cross-legged on his couch, poking the still-broken machine with the expression of someone studying an ancient relic. The toaster hissed at her. She hissed back. It was unclear who won. "You Earth people willingly keep these things in your homes?" she asked. "Toasters? Yeah, they're harmless. It attempted to incinerate me." "It's enthusiastic," he corrected gently. "There's a difference." She considered this, ears tilting in suspicion. When the diplomatic shuttle arrived to escort them to her world, the shuttle's AI scanned the toaster, beeped, and declared it a potential explosive. He had to swear, twice, that humans were simply bad at kitchen engineering. The AI grudgingly hovered back, muttering that it would be filing an incident report. The moment they stepped aboard, he realized her world was even stranger when seen through human eyes. The shuttle interior shimmered with soft pulse lighting that followed their footsteps like curious fireflies. Seats adjusted themselves to mold perfectly around each occupant. His, however, panicked upon detecting unfamiliar posture and squeezed him until she intervened. "Release him," she commanded. The seat apologized to him in 3 languages. She found this hilarious. He tried to pretend he still had dignity. When they entered orbit, her homeworld unfurled beneath them like a living mural, spirals of floating gardens, crystalline skyways, entire districts suspended on anti-gravitic anchors that glowed with a soft violet hum. She watched his reaction the way someone watches the sunrise, quietly, with a secret satisfaction. "You didn't warn me it would look like that," he said, gesturing helplessly. "Would you have believed me?" "No." Then I saved time. Customs was an ordeal. Alien officials examined him with professional curiosity, unsure whether to treat him as a guest, a curiosity, or a misplaced pet. One attempted to scan his species identification markers, only for the device to misread his hair as an invasive organism. Another official tried to communicate telepathically and recoiled instantly. "He thinks too loudly," the official told her. "I do not," he protested. "I think at a perfectly normal volume." She smiled at him, amused. "Your mind does sometimes resemble a crowded marketplace." "Thanks," he muttered. "It is endearing." Only slightly offended, he followed her into the capital. Her world smelled faintly of copper and starlight. An odd combination that he eventually learned came from aromatic towers that filtered the air and emitted motivational scents. Unfortunately, his scent reader malfunctioned and selected aggressive peppermint as his default. Passers-by sneezed as he walked by. She found this too amusing. His first major challenge came during the welcoming banquet. Her society had gathered influential figures, dignitaries, scholars, and one elderly woman who attended simply because she wanted to witness the human phenomenon. The banquet hall shimmered with levitation crystals that held platters in midair, shifting them to diners with impeccable timing, except when they approached him. Then they shivered, bobbed uncertainly, and veered in unpredictable directions. He dodged 3 hovering dishes, caught a 4th, and was nearly taken out by a bowl of glowing soup that emitted a low growl. She intercepted the soup mid-pounce, scolding it. "Behave, he is not prey." The soup grumbled but retreated. He sat beside her, doing his best to look like someone who belonged in a palace, instead of someone who had once lost a battle against a roll of duct tape. Eyes watched them from every direction, some admiring, some confused, some calculating. A noblewoman leaned forward. "Human, do you possess any exceptional talents?" He said, "I make good coffee." There was a ripple of polite horror. Another noble asked, "Why did she choose you?" He froze. She answered first. "Because he is sincere." Her voice was calm, firm, unshakable. "Because he is brave in quiet ways. Because he speaks honestly, even when he doesn't know he's being evaluated. And because," she added, glancing at him with the softest hint of warmth, "he looks at me like a person, not a prize." The hall fell thoughtful. Then, in perfect contrast, his chair suddenly folded in half and dumped him onto the floor. The hall gasped. He lay there, humiliated beyond measure. She extended a hand, smiling softly. "My world may not understand you yet, but I do." He hesitated, then took her hand. Something settled into place between them, something wordless and quietly strong. Later, as they walked through the glowing city streets, he asked, "Are you sure about all this, about me?" She stopped, facing him fully, her long ears angled forward, attentive. "I have never been more certain of anything." "That's a lot of pressure." "Yes," she agreed, "but you handle pressure impressively. You watched me lose a fight with a chair." "And I was impressed." He groaned, she laughed. And for the first time since arriving on her world, he felt something he hadn't dared hope for, like maybe he wasn't just chosen, maybe he was wanted. The day of the proving came far sooner than he'd hoped. He'd barely adjusted to chairs that behaved, doors that whispered unsolicited advice, or utensils that vibrated in disapproval when held incorrectly. And now, he was expected to stand before her entire society and demonstrate the legitimacy of their bond. No pressure. Just the fate of cross-species romance resting squarely on the shoulders of a man who still occasionally lost arguments with his own appliances. The proving arena rose like a luminous amphitheater, its seats carved into spiraling arcs suspended by anti-gravitic rings. Thousands of citizens gathered, their long-eared silhouettes shimmering in the glow of the hovering lanterns. The air itself thrummed with an anticipatory hum, an unfortunate reaction caused by the arena's emotional sensors, which apparently believed everyone was politely anxious. She stood beside him, her hand clasped around his, warm and steady. For all her grace, there was tension in her posture. Not fear, determination. She had chosen him boldly, stubbornly, defiantly. And today, she would defend that choice. The High Council appeared on a floating platform. The eldest among them lifted a crystalline device that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Your bond must be tested through truth," he announced. "This ancient instrument will reveal sincerity or expose falsehood." The device drifted toward them, vibrating faintly. He was fairly certain it was judging his haircut. "Relax," she whispered. "Relax. That thing looks like it wants to eat my thoughts. It only bites a little." "That's not comforting." The device touched their joined hands and immediately exploded into a burst of shimmering light. Gasps echoed through the amphitheater. The council scrambled. He panicked. "Did we break it? Please tell me we didn't break the sacred truth orb thing." The eldest counselor examined the sputtering device. "It has not malfunctioned. It has merely reacted strongly." "Is that good or bad?" he asked. "Yes," the counselor said, helpful. The audience murmured, confused. The tension climbed, so he did the only thing his frazzled brain offered. He stepped forward. "Look," he said, voice echoing awkwardly. "I'm not special. I'm not powerful. I don't have glowing hair or ears that can point at people judgmentally. No offense." "None taken," she said softly. "I'm just me. I fix things badly. I trip over nothing. I panic in front of alien royalty. And I have no idea how to impress any of you because the truth is, I'm impressed by everything here. Every day. Every strange, glowing, incomprehensible part of this world." A ripple of surprised amusement moved through the crowd. "But she didn't choose me for perfection," he continued, heart pounding. "She chose me because I'm honest with her, because I'm not trying to be anything else. And because when I look at her, I don't see a symbol or an achievement or a prize. I see someone who makes the universe feel bigger and smaller at the same time. Someone brave enough to choose differently." He hesitated, and I want to be brave enough to match that. Beside him, she inhaled sharply, not in shock, but in something softer, deeper. Her long ears lowered slightly, a gesture of emotion he'd come to recognize. The counselors exchanged glances. The arena quieted. Then she stepped forward, voice ringing clear. "I chose him because he sees me as I am, not as a role or expectation. He brings sincerity into a world drowning in perfection. And if that disrupts tradition, then perhaps tradition has grown fragile." Silence. Then the ancient device, still floating weakly, emitted a soft chime, as if giving its reluctant blessing. The eldest counselor bowed his head. "Truth has been spoken. The bond stands." The amphitheater erupted, not in outrage, but in a wave of murmured acceptance, curiosity, and even scattered cheers. A few nobles looked scandalized, but none stepped forward to oppose the ruling. The shift had begun. She released a trembling breath and turned to him. "You were remarkable." I was terrified, yet still remarkable. He laughed weakly, relief flooding him. "So, what now?" "Now," she said, intertwining her fingers with his, "we live, together, without proving anything to anyone else." They walked out of the arena hand in hand. For once, the city didn't feel overwhelming. Its floating gardens didn't seem impossibly foreign. The scent tower